a road that clings to cliffs with no guardrails whatsoever, a highway that took 18 years to build and cost nearly $500 million, and a mountain pass so deadly that they had to hang workers from ropes with dynamite just to carve it out. These are America's most insane cliff roads that engineers somehow managed to build against all odds. And the costs? They're absolutely mind-blowing. So let's dive into the world of cliffside construction, where one wrong move could cost you everything. Starting off with a road that literally lives up to its name, we've got Colorado's $1 Million Highway, a 5-mile stretch of U.S. Route 550 that runs between Silverton and Ouray through the San Juan Mountains. And when I say this thing is dangerous, I'm not exaggerating. The road climbs to 11,018 feet at Red Mountain Pass, features hairpin turns with sheer drop-offs of over 600 feet. And here's the kicker. There are no guardrails on most sections. Why? Because they need somewhere to push the snow when they clear it, and that somewhere is straight off the cliff. Back in 1880, the Ouray and San Juan Wagon Road Company started building this thing to reach the Red Mountain Mining District, but by 1882, they'd run completely out of money. That's when Otto Mears, known as the Pathfinder of the San Juans, stepped in and bought a 54% stake in the company. Mears put together a larger construction crew and basically had them blast the road straight out of solid rock. His crews cleared 8.5 miles at a cost of $40,000 per mile back in the 1880s, which would be roughly $1.2 million per mile in today's 2026 dollars. The road was completed in 1883, and it operated as a toll road where Mears charged $5 per wagon and $1 per person, which was seriously expensive for the time. The road we drive today was widened and paved in the 1930s, but that original engineering work from the 1880s is still there. From day one, this was an engineering nightmare. Workers had to be lowered by rope from the canyon rim with dynamite equipped with extra long fuses, then yanked back up before the explosives went off. Multiple workers died during construction. They carved notches directly into the mountainside because there was literally no other way to do it. The curves in this highway still bear the names of the men who built them, names like Frozen Man Curve, Deadman's Curve, and Mae West Curve. These names give you a pretty clear picture of what these workers thought about the insane project they were tackling. Today, there are 70 named avalanche paths that cross the highway between Ouray and Silverton. The U.S. Department of Transportation designated it as an all-American road, but it also made USA Today's list of the world's 12 most dangerous roads, right alongside Iraq's Highway of Death and Bolivia's Death Road. Locals joke they'd need to be paid $1 million just to drive it in winter. And with ongoing maintenance and reconstruction projects in 2025 and 2026, the state of Colorado continues pouring millions into keeping this engineering marvel operational. Recent reconstruction projects on various segments have cost between $16.6 million for a 1.6-mile section to over $27 million for bridge work, showing just how expensive it is to maintain these cliff-hugging routes. If you think Colorado has it bad, California's Highway 1 through Big Sur might be even crazier. This 7.1-mile stretch along the California coast is considered one of the most scenic drives in the world, but it's also one of the most expensive and dangerous roads to maintain in the entire country. The road is literally cut into the face of towering seaside cliffs, and it has a nasty habit of sliding into the Pacific Ocean whenever Mother Nature decides to throw a tantrum. Construction of the original Carmel-San Simeon Highway started back in 1919 with an initial bond measure of $1.5 million. They thought that would be enough. They were very, very wrong. When the road finally opened 18 years later in 1937, the total cost had ballooned to $10 million. To build it, crews used 70,000 pounds of dynamite and moved more than 10 million cubic yards of granite, marble, and sandstone. Just the Bixby Bridge alone required 300,000 board feet of Douglas fir, 6,600 cubic yards of concrete, and 600,000 pounds of reinforcing steel. But here's where it gets really expensive. The U.S. Geological Survey has identified 75 miles of the Big Sur coastline as one of the most landslide-prone areas in the entire western United States, with over 1,500 mapped slides. In January 2023, Paul's Slide dumped massive amounts of debris over the highway and closed it for months. Before workers could even finish cleaning that up, Regent's Slide hit in February 2024, burying another 6.8-mile section, under 300,000 cubic yards of material. That's enough to fill about 12,000 dump trucks. The repair work for just the Regent Slide project cost $82 million and took until January 2026 to reopen. Workers had to remove all that material, install cable net drapery systems to control future rockfall, and completely rebuild sections of the roadway. At one point during repairs in 2023, the state paused work after detecting earth movement and had already spent $24.4 million with nothing to show for it. The closure cost businesses in the area over $500 million in lost revenue and became the longest closure in Highway 1's history. And it doesn't stop. Just north of the Regent Slide area, the Rocky Creek Bridge section experienced a slip-out in March 2024 that required another $21 million in emergency repairs. Workers had to build an entirely new viaduct structure while keeping the railroad below operational. In 2026, California continues spending tens of millions annually just keeping this one stretch of highway open because every winter storm threatens to send more of it into the ocean. Now let's head up to Montana and Wyoming for the Beartooth Highway, a 6-8-mile section of U.S. Route 212 that connects Red Lodge, Montana, to the northeast entrance of Yellowstone National Park. CBS correspondent Charles Kuralt once called it the most beautiful drive in America, and it's not hard to see why. The highway climbs to 10,947 feet at Beartooth Pass, crossing alpine tundra where snowstorms can hit even in July. The original road was completed in 1936 at a cost of $2.5 million after years of brutal construction. Workers faced grueling conditions, treacherous terrain, and 2 workers died building it. But the federal government actually considered it a success because it came in at less than half of what they'd expected to pay. That success story didn't last, though, because maintaining a road at nearly 11,000 feet through one of the harshest climates in America turned out to be incredibly expensive. Fast forward to 2005, and massive mudslides and rockslides destroyed the highway in a dozen places. The state issued a $20.4 million construction contract to fix it. Crews had to remove an estimated 100,000 cubic yards of rock from just a half-mile section near the top of the switchbacks, drilling all the way down to solid bedrock to create new supports for the road. But the really expensive work came later. In 2017, Wyoming received a $16.6 million federal Tiger grant to rebuild a 1.6-mile segment that winds along a cliff, dropping straight down to Beartooth Creek. Engineers designed retaining walls up to 30 feet tall and stretching 1,500 feet long so they could widen the highway without having to blast more cliff face away. Then in 2020, another $27 million project began on the Beartooth Ravine Bridge, a 420-foot, 3-span steel girder bridge with 20-foot-high, mechanically stabilized earth retaining walls. The total reconstruction of the Beartooth Highway has been ongoing since the 1970s, with Wyoming Department of Transportation officials stating they've spent well over $100 million across multiple phases just trying to keep this one road operational. And they're part of the Beartooth Steering Committee, which includes Montana DOT, the Federal Highway Administration, Yellowstone National Park, and the U.S. Forest Service, all working together because no single agency wants to shoulder the entire financial burden of maintaining this engineering nightmare. But if you want to talk about the single most expensive rural highway project in American history, you've got to look at Interstate 70 through Glenwood Canyon in Colorado. This 12.5-mile stretch of highway cost $490 million to build back in the 1990s, which translates to roughly $800 million in today's 2026 dollars. That works out to about $39 million per mile, making it 40 times more expensive than the average interstate mile that planners had originally predicted. The canyon itself is 3,000 feet deep, with walls rising up to 2,000 feet above the Colorado River. A dirt road was first built through here in 1902. Then a paved 2-lane highway was constructed from 1936 to 1938 at a cost of $1.5 million. When the interstate system was being planned, engineers looked at Glenwood Canyon and basically said, "This is impossible." The original plan for I-70 through the area was criticized as the epitome of environmental insensitivity, and environmentalists successfully stopped construction for 30 years. When construction finally resumed in 1981, engineers had completely redesigned the project. They built 40 bridges and viaducts, added 3 tunnel bores, and constructed 15 miles of retaining walls just for those 12 miles of highway. The road was designed in tiers, with eastbound and westbound lanes at different elevations to fit into the narrow canyon without disturbing the environment too much. They had to coordinate special blasting techniques because they couldn't disrupt the railroad running through the canyon. Some sections feature precast box girders and welded steel box girders that were constructed off-site and lifted into place to minimize the environmental footprint. The project took 11 years to complete, finishing in 1992, and it was declared both an environmental and engineering success. The Colorado Department of Transportation earned 30 awards for the work, including the 1,993 Outstanding Civil Engineering Achievement Award from the American Society of Civil Engineers. The U.S. Department of Transportation even lists I-70 through Glenwood Canyon as one of the engineering marvels of the entire interstate highway system. But the expenses didn't stop after construction. In July 2021, massive mudslides hit the canyon, trapping over 100 people and causing extreme damage to the highway. Colorado requested $116 million from the federal government just for the repairs and to study alternative routes. The state estimated $20 million in visible damage, another $20 million in non-visible damage, $4 million for debris removal, and $5 million for geohazard mitigation. The canyon remains vulnerable to mudslides and rockslides, with closures happening regularly that cost the state's economy millions in disrupted travel and commerce. If you thought these cliff roads were crazy, wait until you see what we've got coming next, because we're diving into even more insane construction projects that'll blow your mind. So smash that subscribe button right now and hit the bell so you don't miss it.